You guys have outdone yourselves.
We're just warming up. Well, good afternoon. My name is Joel Seligman, and along with Danny Wegman, I'm co-chair of the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council. And on behalf of the entire council, we welcome you to this presentation. We're going to begin with introductions by Secretary of State Cesar Perales, but I want to, before he introduces those members of the Strategic Implementation Assessment Team who are here today, particularly note that Secretary of State Perales was on the equivalent to the Strategic Implementation Assessment Team last year. We are glad to see him again. It was a pleasure to have performed, if you will, before you in Albany, and it's nice to have you in our local theater this time.
Thank you very much. Let me just say briefly that the fact that we're here able to see you in action rather than have you come to us in Albany, I think makes a big, big difference. I don't know who thought of this. I can't take credit for it, but it does make a difference when we come out here, see what it is that you guys are doing, and then listen to your presentation. It makes a great deal more sense. And I don't want to go on too much longer without thanking you for lunch. We are very, very grateful and pleased by the hospitality that you have shown us. Let me begin by introducing the other members of the assessment team. On my immediate left, Darrell Obertine, who's the New York State Commissioner for the Department of Agriculture and Markets. The Office of General Services Commissioner, Roanne Testito, next to him. And then our Tax and Finance Commissioner, Tom Maddox. And the Environmental Facilities Corporation President and CEO, Matt Driscoll. We also have with us, while not part of our strategic assessment team, our Lieutenant Governor, Bob Duffy, who, as you understand, is really one of the reasons behind the REDC process. He has kept our feet to the fire and has been really an important element in the work that we're doing. And I also would like to introduce the President and CEO of the Empire State Development Corporation, our friend Ken Adams, our colleague, and he will obviously be with us when we make our recommendations and we'll receive them, and so he is also a very important element of our team. Let me just say that I want to thank the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council, and especially your two dynamic co-chairs, Joel Seligman and Danny Wegman. And we have to just historically indicate that this was Governor Cuomo's own idea, this approach to economic development. And last year you pulled your community together, created your 5-year strategic regional economic plan, and you were awarded we awarded altogether $785 million for economic and community development projects consistent with each region's plan. This year we're moving a little differently because we want to learn about your progress as well as your new approaches and new projects. What we learned today will help us distribute the 5 best implementation awards of $25 million each. These funds will provide enhanced funding for priority projects based on the progress you've already made. I understand you have about a half hour to tell us about the progress you've made in implementing the development plan. I'm looking forward to hearing about the capital projects that were funded through the CFA last year and about the transformational initiatives that you're undertaking this year. After you tell us about that, we will have 30 minutes to ask questions. We want to be sure we understand your successes and your challenges. Through all of this, we will evaluate your progress as it relates to 6 different things: strategy updates, implementing the strategic plan, leveraging resources, advancing priority projects, measuring performance, and lastly but not least, engaging the public and involving stakeholders. With that, now let me turn it over to Joel and Danny.
Secretary Perales, thank you so much, and thank all of the members of the assessment team who have joined us today. Let me also thank the Lieutenant Governor, Joe Robach and Joe Morelli, who are members of the Regional Economic Development Council, and Kenneth Adams for joining us today. We're a region on the move. We've changed from an economy based upon a small number of large manufacturers to an increasingly successful and diverse knowledge-based economy with a growing number of successful small and medium-sized businesses. Despite the extraordinary hit, if you will, of the downsizing of Kodak, Xerox, Bausch & Lomb, we've seen substantial job growth in the past 30 years, from 556,000 jobs in 1980 to over 700,000 in 2012. Our region's resilience has been driven in part by a rich array of colleges and universities and fueled by a talented, highly educated workforce with a strong entrepreneurial spirit. The Finger Lakes is outpacing the state and nation in job creation and consistently ranks among the strongest performing economies in the country. Literally since 2010, we've added over 20,000 jobs, recovering all of the jobs that were lost in 2008, 2009. Put another way, the Rochester metro area is one of only 15 regions in the country that has more private jobs now than before the downturn began. This year, the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council is recommending that the state invest in several multi-year projects previously identified, as well as certain new priority projects that will enhance workforce development, strengthen our urban cores and rural communities, accelerate the creation and revitalization of key industrial development sites, improve the quality and lower the cost of health care, and enable companies with growth potential to expand their operations. Our 12 transformative projects and 7 Excelsior tax credit projects will leverage hundreds of millions in private support and create an estimated 8,000 jobs. Indeed, the Council is confident that if our plan is supported by New York State, it will enable the region to outperform in the state and the nation in job growth over the next 5 years and lead to the creation of at least 50,000 net new jobs in the region by the end of 2016, assuming there's no material deterioration in the national economy. We believe our plan deserves support because it demonstrates clear return on investment by leveraging significant outside resources. As I noted earlier today, last year the state provided something like $68.8 million to our region. This led to $346 million in private investment in our region. This year, in the $25 million competition that the Secretary noted, we anticipate the leverage will be over $200 million. There are specific projects such as College Town, where we are seeking $4 million from the state, and we anticipate over $100 million in private funds. Let me turn now to my co-chair, Danny Wegman, but leave you all with a very simple thought. We urge you to back a winner. We urge you to build on strength. If the Finger Lakes region is given its fair share of investment, state support will accelerate this economic growth at a lower cost than other regions in this state and with a higher per capita job creation.
Thanks, Joel.
Job creation is vital. Microphone is vital too. Job creation is vital to our region. So is quality of life. To address these, we reviewed our 2011 strategic plan and strengthened it to provide a framework to better develop and execute economic strategies that maximize our growth potential, strengthen our economy, and achieve an ever better quality of life. Critical to our success was the reorganization and coordination of our work groups, something of which I am particularly proud of. We thoroughly reviewed the purpose and membership of the work groups and appropriately realigned them with our implementation objectives and agenda. As a result, we expanded the number of our work groups from 11 to 14 to include more than 200 area stakeholders to more accurately reflect the economic clusters that are of greatest importance to the region. This, coupled with robust public engagement that included 12 public meetings involving more than 700 participants, has led to a stronger focus on implementation, new project recommendations, and a stronger plan overall. The expansion and strengthening of the work groups has been critical for our progress and speaks to our rich history of collaboration. The Council recognizes that the potential of the work groups extends beyond economic development planning and provides a strong framework to advance and address other issues affecting our community. The regional strategic categories developed by the Council are optimize business creation, retention and expansion, strengthen academic and industry partnerships, align workforce development efforts with sector needs, invest in community industrial development and infrastructure. The Council will leverage its advantages in academic research, workforce talent, and high quality of life to develop and execute strategies and actions for advanced healthcare, life sciences, energy, innovation, optics, imaging, and photonics, business services, advanced manufacturing, agriculture, and food processing. It will also strive to harness its natural resources, cultural institutions, and vineyards to become one of the state's leading tourist destinations. The Finger Lakes Regions has made significant progress toward its goal of accelerating the region's economic transformations as measured by our job growth and our low unemployment rate. The Finger Lakes has created over 13,000 jobs in the last 12 months. This 2% rate of growth outpaced the state and the nation, and our unemployment rate, currently 7.8, has remained consistently among the lowest in the state and below the national average. Thanks in measurable part to the $68.8 million awarded by New York State to the Finger Lakes region last December, and the $100 million committed by the governor for the I-390 interchange progress, we are already making substantial progress with the right strategic investments. In most cases, contracts are being executed with state agencies and investments are underway. We are a community that's accustomed to working together on community solutions. Our region has long distinguished itself as able to develop innovative, cooperative approaches to healthcare, financing, and delivery by bringing together the interests of employers, providers, insurers, and consumers. Since the days of George Eastman, we have strived to make Rochester the healthiest community in the nation. As a result, the Finger Lakes has a nationally recognized healthcare system that is accessible, low cost, and high quality. Our region's history of community planning and capacity management continues to pay dividends today in terms of efficiency and cost effectiveness. Last year, a collaborative with more than 100 local leaders was awarded $300,000 through the CFA to administer a region-wide initiative to reduce the number of people with hypertension from 37% to 25% in 5 years, thereby saving an estimated $8.5 million in healthcare costs annually. Thanks to state support, this initiative is underway. Health advocates have been hired and outreach activities are beginning. Our region was also awarded a $26.6 million three-year grant from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation to transform healthcare in the Finger Lakes region by providing a more comprehensive primary care model to patients most at risk for hospitalizations and emergency room visits. This grant, the largest awarded in the nation, is expected to reduce healthcare costs by $48 million over the next 3 years by improving people's health and reducing the need for the most costly services. While the state has not made funding for healthcare initiatives part of the CFA process, The Council will continue to work with the state to encourage greater flexibility with its economic development resources for projects like this that lower cost, improve health outcomes, and attract business are supported.
The Council, thanks, Danny. The Council considers the maintenance and expansion of Eastman Business Park its top regional priority and vital to our economic future. The site is one of the nation's premier industrial development sites, literally a city within a city, and possesses a unique set of assets and capability that make it an extremely attractive location for high-tech and advanced manufacturing companies. Last year, the state awarded $3.5 million to New York Battery and Energy Storage Technology Consortium to establish a commercialization center at the park to facilitate the creation and deployment of the next generation of energy storage technologies that could make New York the international leader in the development and manufacturing of advanced energy storage solutions. New York Best has executed its contracts, hosted a community workshop, and hired a center director. It's currently raising $20 million in additional support to order equipment and complete the facility at Eastman Business Park. This year, we have identified two companies, one to expand its current operations, Graphene Devices, and another to relocate here, Gnomes Technology. Combined, the two will create more than 150 new jobs and represent some $5 million in new investment. The Finger Lakes region is also home to 18 colleges and universities, supporting more than 46,000 jobs and collectively enrolling 85,000 students. Our region is one of the most productive in the nation in per capita degrees awarded in fields that are central to competitiveness. We are number one in physical sciences and mathematics, number two in biological and life sciences, number three in engineering, and number five in computing and information sciences. The Council is recommending two projects that will build on these strengths that our region's research universities possess and create world-class centers of education, scientific innovation, and industry academic partnerships. One of these, the University of Rochester's Health Sciences Center for Computational Innovation, is a partnership between the university and IBM to create the most advanced computer system dedicated to health research in the nation. And I have understated it, and this is something I'm not prone to do, in the world. Let's scratch that. Thanks to the $5 million in support from the state, on top of earlier gifts from IBM, the university is now home to IBM's next generation supercomputer, which is called the Blue Gene Q. In August, we were delighted when Governor Cuomo was present when we cut the ribbon on the new facility dedicated to this initiative. That partnership, which began in 2008 with a Blue Gene P, had generated approximately $80 million in outside-sponsored research by the time of the governor's visit. It has now generated $23 million more in new awards over the last 3 months. We estimate that this center will create 900 jobs for our region. Bill?
The Golisano Institute for Sustainability at RIT will position RIT as a global leader in the field of sustainable design and product development. What this organization does is help companies improve their bottom line by adopting more sustainable business practices, using less energy, using less material, remanufacturing, and the like. The total cost of this project at full build-out is $107 million. And construction of a $40 million facility that will house the Institute will be completed on December the 10th. So we need your support as soon as possible. State support will enable RIT to equip a set of specialized labs in the building that will enable it to partner with companies, develop new products, explore new materials, and experiment with new manufacturing processes. And the direct jobs impact of the Golisano Institute for Sustainability in the short term is anticipated to be at least 1,075 jobs, including 75 direct hires at RIT, but more than 1,000 at area manufacturing firms. And this estimate is actually based on our actual experience and track record over many years of RIT's Center for Integrated Manufacturing Studies, which was highlighted by the Brookings Institution in its report, Why Manufacturing Matters, as a model for building industry networks. And one last comment. I understand the governor earlier today mentioned that he's a little concerned when the universities put out new intellectual property, but then it goes to other states to support the new product development and manufacturing in those states. And we recently had a graduation ceremony for our Clean Energy Incubator, which is related to this whole technological area. And of the 6 companies we graduated, they're now employing more than 200 people right in the Rochester area.
Thank you. Well, in addition to the advanced learning that you've heard about, the Finger Lakes region, like many regions within New York State, also has a great need for middle skills workers. And that's the workforce that needs something more than a high school diploma, something less than a 4-year degree. And in fact, the growth and demand for what's being called the skills gap workers is exacerbated by the fact that as much as 25% of the existing workforce in our region in the sectors that are critical to our region's economic development is planning to retire. These are those baby boomers. So that's what we're really talking about, is not just the absence of workers coming in, but the unfortunate workers who are also leaving the workplace as well. Know that the region, when we talk about the 2011 CFA, has already made good use of the funds that were accorded last year. And in fact, of the 18 companies that were assigned workforce training dollars last year, 5 have already completed that work, and 13 are well underway or nearing completion for their workforce. In the Finger Lakes region alone, you heard a little bit about manufacturing. What we anticipate over the next few years in that middle skills space is that we'll have about 2,600 advanced manufacturing jobs, about 9,700 middle skills jobs within healthcare, and close to 3,700 middle skills jobs in the trades. So this is a real critical issue for us moving forward. To address this, we've proposed a new project called Multiple Pathways to Middle Skills Jobs. The program creates mobile learning labs to serve as regional assets to train these workers. What this does is it helps our economy grow and remain competitive, but it also opens those employment opportunities to the full diversity of the 9-county Finger Lakes region, because these are mobile learning labs. What that does is it opens those to those who are struggling, particularly in urban areas and also in our rural communities. The project represents a model collaboration that has brought together K-12 districts, BOCES, community colleges, industry and business, and industry and teachers unions. When fully implemented, the Multiple Pathways project will be able to provide up to 5,200 individuals, all in sectors identified by the Council as central to the Finger Lakes, provide them with the training that's critical for them to fill those jobs today and to stay within our region. It also provides an opportunity for the region's 3 SUNY community colleges to leverage their share of the $14.6 million grant from the U.S. Department of Labor, which is significant. Decreasing the skills gap in the Finger Lakes and increasing our workforce capacity will help assure that our region and New York State remain open for business.
One of the key aspirations of the strategic plan the Council has put in place is to create an environment in the Finger Lakes in which small companies can grow, thrive, and create new jobs. The Council understands that that is why the strategies and actions we have laid out create an integrated network of resources that will support small businesses at every stage of growth and across all industry sectors and geographic regions. Collectively, the small business proposals I will discuss will directly impact 38 companies in our region and represent more than $56 million in total investment, while creating and retaining more than 2,300 jobs. First, the Finger Lakes Business Accelerator Cooperative, which you heard a little bit about this morning, represents a critical bridge between the technological innovation being created in our region's universities and the private sector and new business formation. The project will create a hub and node network of business support services for early stage companies and connect those services to every county in the Finger Lakes region. The need is significant. The region's incubation facility are already oversubscribed. High-Tech Rochester Projects, the project sponsor, is in the advanced stages of discussions with a private company to acquire an existing facility that will accelerate this project's timeline. Last year, the state awarded $2.5 million to this project, and we are requesting a similar amount this year. We estimate this initiative will help to create more than 1,000 new jobs through startup formation and growth over the next 5 years. Once these companies are created, they represent a significant opportunity for regional job creation. An estimated 80% of New York State's future business growth will come from the expansion of existing businesses. The Finger Lakes Internal Harvesting and Economic Gardening Initiative was created by the council last year and supported in 2011 by the state with a $200,000 grant. The purpose of the grant was to work with existing growth-oriented companies to connect them with the resources and expertise necessary to help them expand. The first 20 companies to participate in this program have already been identified, and we are actively working with executives from these companies together with our partners at the National Center for Economic Gardening.
Steve?
Small businesses need access to capital to grow. However, small businesses in underserved rural and urban areas often can't find access to gain the money they need in order to grow. The council has recommended the creation of the Finger Lakes Enterprise Fund. This is a new program. It will be run by Pathstone, which is a community development organization with a successful track record of supporting small businesses in economically depressed communities throughout New York State. The fund will operate an investment pool and provide technical assistance and counseling loans to small businesses and micro enterprises, focusing on Main Street redevelopment and minority and women-owned businesses in the region's rural and urban communities. It's estimated that this project will create and retain nearly 300 jobs. Similarly, the council has proposed the creation of a capital investment pool that will target 7 specific companies based throughout the region that are also poised for significant growth. The Finger Lakes Small Business Expansion Fund will leverage $9.2 million in total investment and create and retain just over 300 more jobs.
Last year, based on the council's recommendations, 6 companies were awarded $1.67 million in funding as part of the CFA process. Since that time, an additional 6 companies have received Excelsior support to create or retain a total of 2,400 jobs. This includes support for the Wave Holding LLC. This is the official name of the joint venture between PepsiCo and the German-based Theo Mueller Group to introduce a new Greek-style yogurt product in the United States. Both companies are spending more than $206 million to build a 363,000 square foot facility that will initially employ nearly 200 people and could eventually employ as many as 600. Building on this success, we are recommending 7 projects this year that will help create or retain 670 new jobs. Okay. The council is also focused on developing the resources necessary for medium and large-sized companies, particularly in the field of advanced manufacturing. We've identified 2 large industrial development sites, one, Eastman Business Park, we already have discussed, and you already had a chance to see a little bit on the bus tour. Another is the Science, Technology, and Advanced Manufacturing Park, or STAMP. This site, which is located roughly halfway between Rochester and Buffalo, will strengthen the state's leadership in nanoscale manufacturing by creating the next shovel-ready mega site to attract these kinds of companies. The site possesses a convergence of transportation and industrial infrastructure, including low-cost hydropower that makes it highly competitive for advanced manufacturing activity. While this project will take several years and a significant investment to bring to its completion, with initial investments, we believe the site will be home to at least 1,500 direct jobs by 2015.
The slide in front of you is a depiction of the Harbor Project where we started our tour today. The Council believes that effective and strategic community development efforts will lead to growth and help combat the concentration of poverty in our region by redeveloping distressed urban neighborhoods and rural communities. As you will see from the next slide, this is something that rural areas and urban areas share as a goal. We're pleased to have partnered with the state to support a number of key housing, community development, and water access and quality improvement projects across the region's cities, towns, and rural communities. In total, almost 90 projects representing more than $142 million and 700 units of senior and affordable housing are being invested across the region thanks to the funding from the 211 Consolidated Funding Application process. The council has prioritized two key development projects, Midtown and College Town, both of which you saw on the tour today. Both projects will create a focal point of commercial, retail, office, and residential activity that will strengthen surrounding neighborhoods, increase tax revenues, and create jobs. The redevelopment of the former Midtown Plaza is a transformational project. The demolition is complete, and the redevelopment of the site's infrastructure is underway and subject to a project labor agreement that ensures economic and community benefits of the project are maximized. And as you saw today, there's no turning back. One of the 6 development opportunities on the site is already underway. The Windstream office building, which is a $19 million investment made by the Pike Company, that is bringing 335 permanent jobs downtown and creating 200 construction jobs and reusing the structure of the Seneca building. The developer broke ground on the new Windstream building in March, thanks in part to a significant state support to prepare the site for development, and it will be open this coming summer. The Midtown Tower will be the next project underway. It's a $55 million investment, which will bring 90 permanent jobs downtown, develop 150 to 200 residential units, and create 200 construction jobs, and it will reuse the structure of Midtown Tower. The project is key to downtown's revitalization and its future growth. The infrastructure and the 2 development projects above represent a $160 million investment in our community. College Town. College Town is a comprehensive plan to redevelop 16 acres of the university-owned property in the city and transform it into a vibrant, pedestrian-scaled neighborhood that will serve as a gateway to the city and a gateway to the university. The approximately 500,000 square feet of development will create a unique destination, which will include restaurants, shops, boutiques, a grocery store, office space, and a 150-room hotel, along with office space and with some residences. This public-private partnership is enthusiastically supported by the community and is estimated to create 900 construction jobs and 330 permanent jobs and millions of dollars of annual tax revenue for the city and the state. The total investment will be $90 million. Joel?
The last project we want to focus on is the I-390 interchange, a multi-phase $100 million project that is the region's highest infrastructure priority. In February, the governor traveled to the region to commit his support for the project and announce his inclusion of $26 million in last year's budget. This project will be instrumental to the institutional growth and business development that potentially will add more than 20,000 new jobs to the region over the next 20 years. I-390 will enable the University of Rochester to create thousands of jobs and strengthen our position as one of the leading research universities in the early 21st century. But perhaps as consequential as that is that it will be of consequence to Rochester Institute of Technology, Monroe Community College, and private development in the region as well. The construction phase of this project alone will create more than 850 jobs and $42 million in labor income, and critically, it has already begun. Let me conclude with the following observations. This region took to heart the governor's aspiration of jobs, jobs, jobs as the mantra of regional economic development. Through the organization, expansion, and re-engagement of our work groups, we have created a comprehensive grassroots framework that has galvanized support and serves as a strong, broad base for our economic development planning. You will note the comprehensive nature of our plans. We touch upon the most sophisticated, knowledge-based economics, and we focus on workforce development for those who haven't graduated from high school, and literally everything in between. We focus on Monroe County and its core city of Rochester, and 8 counties which are outside. We are trying to lift an entire region up together. As a result, we have evaluated and strengthened our strategies, proposed new actions and projects that build on our core strengths and promote growth, and redefined our goal of job creation into a simple, unifying concept. We anticipate creating 50,000 net new jobs on top of the 691,000 that existed when we began this process over the next 5 years. assuming state support for our plan, and there's no material deterioration in our economy. In strengthening our project pipeline, we are recommending 19 transformative and Excelsior tax credit projects that will create and retain approximately 8,000 jobs. We're proud of our plan and urge the state to back a winner. If the Finger Lakes region is given its fair share of investment, we believe we will accelerate this economic growth even faster and continue to outpace the state and nation in job growth. On behalf of my co-chair, Danny Wegman, and the entire Regional Economic Development Council, and more than 200 members of our 14 work groups, let me conclude by thanking Governor Cuomo, Lieutenant Governor Duffy, and all of you on the Strategic Implementation Assessment Team for your participation in what we view as a vital project to the future of New York State. Together, we are all building a new New York, and we're honored to be alongside with you in this effort. Thank you.
Let me thank you for the impressive presentation. The entire panel was very good and succinct, which is also very important to us. But before I turn it over to other members of my panel, let me ask the first question, which is sort of unfair because it doesn't relate to your presentation at all, but a comment that was made, and I think it was sort of part of the presentation. I'm always impressed by regional economic development councils that just don't focus on what award they're getting and what they do with it, but the projects that they're undertaking on their own that support regional economic development. And I was fascinated by the comment that you're going to attract business, you're going to improve the quality of life by doing something else, which is a healthcare, primary care model. So that's impressive. Can somebody tell me a little bit more of what this primary care model looks like? How is it going to provide cheaper health care to the folks in the region?
Well, the role of primary care is the central place to connect patients with doctors, and the doctors' offices are they're being forced in many ways to spend more of their time filling out forms and papers and less time practicing real medicine. So that's one of the significant areas that we intend to look at, to simplify that process using new electronics and so on, that Joel will be part of very much himself. And so that's one major area that we anticipate working on in that arena. But there's more than that, and I'm not familiar with all of them. If you want to speak, Joel.
Sure. This is something we're really proud of. We have one of the most advanced electronic medical record system in the state, indeed in the nation. We also have a tradition of our hospitals and our other healthcare providers cooperating with each other. So, for example, doctors at the University of Rochester Strong Memorial Hospital also help at Rochester General, also help at Park Ridge. We have a tradition through what is called the Finger Lakes Health Systems of a coordinating body that has often been wonderful in regional planning. As you heard in Danny's presentation, recently received the largest grant of its sort to, in effect, develop new coordinating mechanisms that link not only our hospitals but primary care docs. And let's face it, we have had economic challenges in upstate, and the flip side of that is we've learned to be very frugal. We've learned to do things less expensively than other places. We've learned that every dollar counts, and we want to get the greatest benefit from it. And that's been part of our culture here as well.
That's great. That's great. Let me now turn it over to Commissioner DeStito.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you very much. And first, I want to I'll join Secretary Perales in telling you thank you for the tour. Mayor, it was a great tour, and it's great to be back here in Rochester. The mayor asked me to come and visit as OGS commissioner, and we came and toured, and it was very nice, but I've actually seen some very positive results, because that building in Midtown was not there when I came the last time, so.
Again, I'll get you another one.
Okay. I just want to focus, because it's something that I've been looking at. You have identified a new strategy, and Dr. Kress, you talked about it, the aligned workforce development efforts with sector needs. And the mayor talked about, graduation rates in Rochester, but there's 8 other counties that are being served. Can you give me an idea, like how close to fruition is that project of, really the multiple pathways to skilled jobs, and how are you going to bring in the other counties, not only the city of Rochester and Monroe County, but the other 8 counties
Sure.
that you serve? Could you just expand a little bit on
Most
that?
certainly.
Thank you.
And it's one of the reasons why, in fact, we're focusing on the mobile learning labs. And it was, I will just sort of pat our region on the back. It was such an interesting idea that SUNY actually took it and put it forward as part of the SUNY 2020 proposal that it put in for the community colleges. Because one of the ways we're able to reach all of the counties is because there is a community college that serves every county. And really using the community colleges as a locus for identifying the critical training needs. So when you look at FLCC, GCC, and MCC, which are the 3 SUNY community colleges that serve, and then working directly with the industries that we're trying to serve. So we're talking about the trades, advanced manufacturing, and then also healthcare. So partnering really and focusing on, I'm going to target 2 audiences here. One is that K-12 audience where we're trying to recruit more students who right now are currently in the school districts to identify career and technical education as an outcome for them. So in many ways, in those districts, the mobile learning labs will serve almost as a recruitment tool to excite students, to provide them with some intensive learning opportunities, say, over the summer. Then with displaced workers, it can really be a training on-site opportunity, and partnering with the various regional workforce boards to have those conversations. I'll say that what we're really working off of, and Danny mentioned the work groups, we have a work group of about 20 people around workforce development that represents the workforce investment boards from across the region, the community colleges from across the region, BOCES, K-12 districts. It's really comprehensive. The trades unions are there as well. It's a really nice approach, and it's enabled us to roll this out in a significant way. So I'd say we're ready to go as soon as we get the labs themselves, which is one of the concrete capital needs.
So you're dependent on the funding to really roll it out to all of
to get the mobile
counties,
learning
labs.
Correct.
Is
correct.
it being used in Monroe County today at all?
Well, we don't have the lab itself, but
Okay.
what we do is what we're essentially doing is taking what is an on-site program like summer sizzlers and intensive summer programs, and we're taking that same equipment and we're putting it on wheels and moving it out.
Okay.
If you look across the country, for example, they've done similar projects in Missouri, in North Carolina, and I should not leave out RIT. RIT sits at the table with us as well because so many of our students move on to those applied degrees.
Could I just add on to that very quickly, because in the area of the degreed personnel, we also need practical training to
Right.
make them actually useful. And RIT is a fairly special institution in that we have 18,000 students, about 80% of which are required to spend a year in industry before they graduate. And those students go out into both the local community and nationally and internationally, but about 2,000 of them work in New York State every year for about 1,500 companies. So I think that's another example of the industrial side and the educational side working together to make sure our workforce needs are met.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a great program.
Thank you.
Tom Maddox?
Thank you. For Mark and Steve, it's notoriously difficult for small businesses to get credit financing as they get started. So the Passstone program is I suspect, going to be particularly helpful. Can you comment a bit on the role that regional financial institutions have played in terms of either backstopping the fund or otherwise providing support for the development of small businesses?
Yeah, part of the reason that we designed the program to work with Passstone is because they have a long history within the region of doing this kind of work and partnering with local financial institutions. And so it's not a state-only piece. It's providing the funding so that we can take advantage over a period of time. One of the challenges with the CFA process, as I'm sure you've heard before, is that we don't always know exactly, and it doesn't fit neatly into the time frame. And so in recognizing that, especially for small businesses, opportunities come quickly, but they also go quickly. And so what we wanted to do is have some flexibility built into the system. By creating a fund, we'll work with Pastone, who has other funds available that they can work with us in partnership with, and has a long history. I know Stuart Mitchell's in the audience and would speak probably far more articulately than I can about this, but they have a great track record of partnering with financial institutions regionally and locally in order to get these kinds of businesses funded in the right way and monitor their progress, make sure that they're successful, help them with the tools to make sure that those loans and those funds that are going out actually get repaid and then can become a chance for another business to be funded. So we really see this as starting to get a wheel turning much faster.
And have those institutions been fairly active with Pastone? So Lions, I know, is one of the working group participants. Are they involved?
Yes, they have been active, and a lot of our local banks, M&T and many others, are very engaged with small business, and it's just a perfect setup because it's really a unique partnership. It helps to spread the risk out a little bit, but it also allows the financial institutions, as you know, Tom, to be able to take a little bit more risk because they have a little bit of a backstop here, and that's really what we need to do. Some of these small businesses have great ideas, great work ethic, wonderful opportunities, but we have to make sure that we can get them off the ground and get them moving, and sometimes financing is a huge barrier to making that happen.
Thank you.
Matt Driscoll.
Sure. Thank you. Let me begin by, first of all, thanking you for the tour this morning. I thought it was very informative, and it was a great chance for us to kind of have our feet on the ground, so to speak, to be able to see firsthand what you've been doing. Also, thank you, Dan, for lunch as well, and your hospitality today. I wanted to say, I'm pleased what I've seen. To be straight with you, I think you've really made great improvement from last year. This plan appears to be much more comprehensive, and pivoting is not always easy, and neighborhood building and community building is tough work, as I'm sure the mayor would echo. So I want to congratulate you on all that. But I have a question. I'm interested in the working groups. Because engagement is really a big part of building capacity. And so can you just talk to us briefly about how these working groups, did they actually help develop your priority project plans, and how are they helping to execute them? Now let's remember that this is a 5-year plan. And so as that relates to job growth, you've pointed out 50,000 new goals, or jobs rather, by 2016. What type of data will be used by those working groups and their engagement process in building that capacity?
Why don't I start with it, Frank? I think the first goal is jobs. That's how we're trying to measure everything. Not always easy to do. The next part of the goal that we've tried to use is, are we? This doesn't tell you you're successful, but we believe in it, is geographic diversity. We're a region again, trying to act like a region. We're trying to look at human diversity, whether it's gender, whether it's race. Those are some basic guidelines. And then what are you going to do that has substance? And some of the teams are doing better than others, I have to be honest, but that's the way it is. And what we're looking to do, we've had a few joint get-togethers where we have accountability. Each team stood up and gave a 5-minute presentation on their plans and how they were trying to go forward. It worked very well, so well that we quickly adopted it at Wegmans and made a lot of progress at Wegmans. So, I mean, we're trying to run it with accountability. We're trying to run these as small entities. They're not so small, actually, but of accountability with leadership and growing jobs, and was the leader of the workforce development group, and I think you can hear from what she said, she's gotten into a lot of the details. We're trying to hold, I would say she's runs an outstanding team. we're really trying to get every team to be to Ann's levels. Are we there? No. Will we get there? We're determined to. And as I was trying to say at lunch, there are things that keep appearing from these teams that we just keep learning about. And we have not had an enormous amount of work in the food and egg processing area, and we know we can because we're waking up to it as we're listening to the groups. It's not a simple process. And if there's anything we need to work on, it's that accountability. Mark has done a lot of work with these groups, and if you wouldn't mind, if I could let Mark come in here.
Well, sure. Just briefly, I mean, we looked at the process of the work groups last year, Matt, and it was really very successful, but it was somewhat unbalanced. And we learned that we needed to create some new work groups. The workforce development one was a perfect example of a work group that we didn't have, that we desperately needed, that we knew was going to cut across every industry sector we were working with. And to the other part of your question, as far as did the plans and the projects that we put forward come out of the work groups, the vast majority of what we put forward, the middle skills proposal and several others, came directly out of the work groups. And quite frankly, would not have been on our radar screen as a joint council if we didn't first hear it from the work groups. So we took that work group process to heart. We also had those work groups engage with the public to provide feedback, so we got other ideas. And so our biggest challenge was the fact that we had all these incredible ideas, was how to manage that and be able to put it into a priority set of projects. And that was our challenge. But we think we've gotten there. We think this weaves together in a much more comprehensive way. We see the path forward for the next 3 to 5 years very easily. We know we're going to execute this strategic plan. We certainly believe we can do a better job with state support, but with or without state support, this plan will be executed.
Let me just add one more point about accountability, which is a theme that Danny and Mark and all those involved in the council takes to heart. If you take a look at our second year strategic plan, pages 70 and 71, we have one illustration of a work group dashboard. There are 13 other illustrations. Each work group prepares this. And the purpose of this is not just to originate projects that come to the council and we potentially support, but we're holding each work group responsible for how well they're doing. They will provide this type of report once a year. Where, Danny talked about the 5-minute presentations, which were fabulous. It's also worthwhile noting that they had the dashboards and they had longer proposals as well, so that we get a lot of information from them. This is, in some degrees, a bottom-up process, and it has allowed us to have sufficient contact with all of our counties and the great diversity of industry and urban versus rural in our community that we otherwise could not have done. But the great challenge is how, when you got 9 counties, you can coordinate this, and the dashboards have been what we believe is going to be a really critical element going forward.
Commissioner Obertin.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And I, too, want to congratulate you on a very, very well put together presentation, as well as your hospitality. I certainly appreciate that. But my question kind of dovetails on what Matt has already touched upon and what you've already touched upon as far as the working groups. 50,000 jobs in the next 3 or 4 years, to say that's aggressive, in my opinion, is an understatement. That's aggressive, but achievable. So, having said that, we've talked about the industrial side, we've talked about healthcare, we've talked about academia. I'd like to talk about agriculture. I'm a little bit biased.
Always brings it up.
When work groups are put together in a region of the state like this, like the Finger Lakes region, there's not a region in this state that's more agriculturally diverse than this region is. And I don't think there's a region in the state where the potential for creating jobs and job growth is any greater in agriculture than this region. So having said all that, I guess my question is there a working group that's looking at the advancement of production agriculture and how that dovetails into all the manufacturing and all the support industry that's out there to support that?
Maybe I could start with just a quick comment. The region, as you point out, is blessed not only with a very, very strong agricultural component, but actually we have all the elements required to bring food to market. We basically have, of course, the agricultural production itself. We also have, of course, the product production, even manufacturing in many cases. And then we have, of course, one of the leading marketing organizations anywhere in the world. So we see this as a kind of integrated project where we can play what I think is really an unfair advantage for the region by becoming really, I think, international leaders in moving food all the way up the production chain to marketing. And I think that's a real positive for us. And I think things like the growth of the yogurt industry locally are a classic example of that. Of course, we need the milk products for the yogurt, but also we need to basically be able to produce the final product, and we need to actually market the final product. And I think that we have unique strengths to bring to that business.
Want to talk about the general industry?
Well, I think Ledestri is probably the finest food manufacturer in America. The great quality and very low cost. I think, if I could be honest, this has kind of caught us by surprise as to the potential here, Daryl. Not just by your question, but we've begun to recognize what a powerhouse we actually are. We're one of the top organic egg producing states in the country. I don't know, maybe California does more, but that's a new happening, and we know because we export them to other states. Same is true of organic milk. We export organic milk to other states, and that's all made here. So I think we have to figure out how can we exploit this, and we should. And then, of course, the processing, which is Ledestri, and I know maybe it's a small company, but once again, nut butter. I didn't know we did business with them myself, and so I guess that's what I was trying to say earlier. We still have a lot of discovery to do, and people just don't jump up and beat their chest like that fella I mentioned, John Noble, who's got the dairy-go-round. He just thought that's what you did, and he's leading the way. And so now we're finding out a little bit about what he does. Does he want to share that with other people? Well, we'll have to find out. But I think that we've got something here. We started our own organic farm to try and urge others to grow organically over extended seasons versus buying from California. And has that caught on exactly? No. Not everything works. Where's Tom Richards? He tells you not everything works.
No. Can I respond directly to your workforce or work group question? Just with the notion of our workforce development work group, and to give you a very specific example, because I think we are a very diverse region, and when you look across all of the Finger Lakes, the reality is that Monroe County, for example, is different than Genesee County, the GLOW region, as we call it, right? And so that's come out around our workforce development work group team. And so GCC has partnered with MCC, but GCC is really taking the lead on this with RIT around food processing. And so really looking at, again, how do you create that workforce pipeline for a critical regional industry? And how can we partner better with the various school districts to help engage those students as well? MCC is home to Grow Monroe, which is our local sort of co-op group, and the the individual who runs that, Bob King, partners actually in terms of internships with Wegmans and others around summer youth employment opportunities for students. So we're really focused on that, I would say, at our work group from the workforce development angle. How do you create that pipeline so that you can staff? I know that that's a big issue for the Food Processors Association as well. They just don't see enough folks interested in it. And whatever we can do to spur that interest, I think, is going to be critical for us as a region.
If you look at page 68, again, in this year's strategic plan, the first work group we list is agriculture and food processing. And I have to be fair, that's probably because it's alphabetical. But it is a great illustration of one of the virtues of the regional economic process. Everything is connected to everything else. So you visit Eastman Business Park, that's where John Ledestri is focusing his food processing. The second group is tourism and the arts. That is intimately connected to one of our great agricultural successes, which is our wine industry. And we're focusing on how we can not only grow grapes that lead to the successful and thriving wine business, but also how we can use it as a magnet to bring tourists into our state the way they go to Napa, Sonoma, and Mendocino counties in California. And you heard earlier today about the Finger Lakes Museum, which is an attraction which we link to bringing people in for the wine business, among other things. And you'll note in tourism and the arts, one of the last members of the tourism and the arts is a member of the New York Wine Grape Foundation. In other words, what we've tried to do, again, is this idea of a comprehensive plan where we help each other in ways we would not have thought to do so, but for the Regional Economic Development Council planning process.
Yeah, I know the hour draws late, but you keep talking about workforce development, and you've talked about it probably better than any of the other regional economic development groups, but this is going to leave you open for a tough question, one that I'm particularly interested in. When we talk about economic development and booms and down periods, there are people who are in bad shape during the down period and are still in bad shape during the boom period. How do you get those people, the least able to compete for jobs, who probably never even thought about going to a community college? Are you folks thinking about, we're going to be creating jobs in this area? There are folks in this community that very rarely get an opportunity to get a good job. Are you able to link those people with the jobs that you're planning to create? And are you going to prepare them and provide them with the supports that they may need to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that you are creating?
Can I suggest two responses to that, starting with our mayor, Tom Richards, and then Ann Kress?
You've hit on something that's very dear to our hearts, and that is that I'm very optimistic about the ultimate success of our economic development efforts. But I worry that a number of the people who are in concentrations of poverty in the city will not participate in that. They won't participate in it because they're not prepared to participate in it. And because the challenges that are necessary, or the preparation that's necessary to participate in is getting higher. So we have a double problem. We're moving the bar against people who are already disadvantaged. And one of the ways of dealing with that problem that we've been dealing with, of course, is to deal with our urban school system. Our urban school system in this community is not good. It needs work. And we are committed to improving it. Many of those students do go to MCC. There's a downtown campus for MCC, and much of the time, I'm sure Ann can explain it to you, some of the time that's spent there is in fact remedial. It is bringing them up to speed in a way they really should be prepared when they get out of high school, but are not for various reasons. We got to get at this because we are producing generations of kids here who are not able to compete in this environment. I'll give you one small example of a way the city's been able to chip away at it. We do have a series of programs, many of which, by the way, are not funded through this process. They are funded by the state often, but not through this process. But one of the things we found was we couldn't get as many people as we thought we should from the city through the public safety employment exams. These are firemen, policemen, 911 people. And so we've started a program in the high schools now. We've had some fits and starts with it, to be frank, but we've gotten it underway now, where people can begin to inquire about those programs and begin to develop a focus on those programs even while they're in high school. So during the last 2 years of high school, they can spend some time at the Educational Opportunity Center downtown that Ann talked about. And then, interestingly, in our community, there are programs from all three of those in MCC, so they can get through high school with a focus on it, go to MCC and have the kind of qualifications they need. And interesting enough, you can even get a degree at RIT in criminal justice, by the way. And we've had people that have done that. So the idea there is to take people who find themselves in this situation and who often do not have a focus or a model that they can attach themselves to, and have them, through a series of programs that provide a lot of support, have them begin to see themselves as success in areas they would not otherwise have attached to. But it's a challenge that we've got work to do on it. I don't mean to minimize the magnitude of the problem we face.
And so let me also take a swing at this. This is critical for us, and I have to say this is part of the reason why I work in community colleges, because of the work that we do. And so let me sketch out really two educational ecosystems that we have here. And one's for the traditional age student. So they're coming through K-12, whether they're in Monroe County or any of the other counties. So I can speak most knowledgeably, obviously, about the folks in Monroe County, so I will. But if those students then hit a certain age and they're actually aging out of school without any degree, they enter into the OASIS program. MCC is partnering with OASIS around a career exploratory course, a 1 credit hour college course, to help folks understand where they can fit as their first step on that ladder. And what we're doing is we're partnering and offering that course right there with the school district. But we're doing more than that. We're going out into the community to capture other audiences. So we're partnering with community development organizations. Pathstone is one of them, Ibero-American Action League, the Urban League, Hillside Work Scholarship. So we're actually taking this information out where it's needed. We're on the cusp of opening up actually an urban campus outreach center on Jefferson Avenue to provide that opportunity for folks there as well. So then when you move from there, maybe there's BOCES, and that's one of the groups that sits around our workforce development table to talk about how you can get a certification. How could you get your GED? How could you move from that to a certification? How could you move from there maybe to go to the REOC? Once you've completed a program there, we actually have counselors on site who will help you come to MCC. So at every point when you talk about support, I guess the visual I always use at the college is sort of, and this, I'm a child of the 70s, a habit trail where, you can't get out. No matter what you do to claw at the sides, we're not going to let you fall out of the system. That's really what we need to create. And we need to create that for displaced adult workers too, folks who've been out of school for a very, very long time. And how can we go out into the community and bring the learning to them, bring those opportunities to them? I mentioned on the bus the 6-week welding program. You'll see folks in that program from high school students who are about to drop out, and this is offered to them as a dual enrollment opportunity, all the way through folks who thought they would retire with a nest egg that would last them forever and can't anymore. It's those short-term training opportunities, I think, that allow folks to have that first rung so that they see that there is a pathway to prosperity for them, even though they thought they were outside of the system.
I want one last crack. Sorry.
You got it.
We know how to fix this. We don't have the funds to keep doing it. The Rochester City School District graduates less than 50% of the kids. We know how to graduate 70. We're doing it. We know how to do it. We will eventually need some help from the state, not just given to us, but matching private funds. And it's another topic, but I'd love to talk to you about it. It's my biggest concern because we don't have enough money to keep doing it. It is working.
Danny, raised an issue, and he did it in his typical, very modest fashion. He's referring to the Hillside Work-Study connection, which is a project his family originated, which has led, as he says, to significantly enhance graduation rates. It combines an incentive for students to stay in high school with jobs. And Danny and Wegmans have provided thousands of jobs through the years, and many, many institutions in the city, including my university and Bill's and Ann's, participate in this, and many private industries. And this is a community effort. But what you're really hearing in the response to Secretary of State's Perales question is, look, let's be honest, this is a really tough issue. And the traditional solutions haven't worked as well as they might. And we're trying to do new things where we think we'll get better results. And when we see things that work, we want to do more of it. Danny, emphasized that he'd love to talk further about this. It's not part of this process, but it is part of a process that will not only lead to a stronger Finger Lakes region, but literally all throughout the state. He knows, he's discovered the elixir. He knows how to enhance graduation rates. You need to give young people hope. And for so many of them, hope means jobs.
We would love to go on in this conversation and
Yes,
so many other subjects that have come up, but I think we're on our way to the Mohawk Valleys where we have to go. So we've got to say goodbye, but I do want to thank you sincerely. This has been a very enlightening presentation. I think we've learned a great deal, and our thanks.
And our thanks to you.
See, while everybody's getting up, if I could say, I think we have a wonderful team here. I'm very proud of them. I appreciate that you would have 7 up here instead of 2 like last time. And believe me, you've got many more in the audience who have done an outstanding job. And I'd like to take this moment to thank them for being such a great team. Great job.